I'm visiting Rome, Italy right now, and I'm pretty sure this is the most racist place I've ever been. I've been to Europe before with zero issues, but this is a whole other level. This is worse than America.
A lot of y'all have experienced racism, but most of y'all haven't experienced level 9 advanced racism.
Glad you're watching. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is another TikTok video about racism in Italy. Yeah, let me say in Europe, but more specifically in Italy. It's what people have experienced the most racism, you know. And this guy is speaking of a pro level 9 kind of racism, and you see from the accent he's a Black American and he experienced racism in Italy. So this is what he's telling us, and not just him. There's a lot of people speaking about the experiences in Italy. So yeah, let me let you listen to them. Remember that this channel is for educational purposes. All the videos you come across on this channel are for educational purposes. Whenever you leave us a comment, kindly keep it well, you know, keep it instructional so that we can make a change. We're here to make the world a better society to live in. We don't propagate any kind of hate. Kindly observe the community guideline. And let you listen to the rest of the video. Don't forget to leave me your thought. I love interacting, guys. Leave me your thought. I will give my thought at the end of the video. Enjoy the rest.
And says,
that is not us. That is not Italia. Everybody start talking about, that's not Italia. That's not Italia.
a lot of y'all have experienced racism, but most of y'all haven't experienced level 9 advanced racism. I'm in a club in Italy walking inside of an elevator. As soon as I step inside, this promoter, she was a woman, puts her full palm on my chest and stiff arms my black ass outside that elevator. And I'm a pretty big guy. You know how much force she had to put in that bitch to throw me out of the elevator? I'm looking inside the elevator and she has the biggest customer service ass smile I've ever seen in my life. Like she was doing my ass a favor. A thing that a lot of people don't realize is that Africans in most European countries are treated like shit. But the thing that she didn't realize was, although I am African, I'm also American. So I did what any American would do and I put my foot on the elevator, opened that bitch up, and walk right in front of her. Everyone then begins to look up at me like, this monkey's bigger than I thought. She immediately begins to look down, continuing her customer service smile, and I begin to cuss her out. And I'm talking really cuss her out, like saying shit I ain't never said before. Like, do you know where I'm from? Did you put your hands on me? As soon as they heard that accent, that American accent, shit flips. Her coworker loses his shit. Hey, what floor did you want to go to? I said, hey, shut up your mouth. I'm not speaking to you right now. Push 3. And all of a sudden, this random man steps from the crowd and says,
that is not us. That is not Italia. Everybody started talking about, that's not Italia. That's not Italia. That's not Italia. Ooh, that shit had me hyped. I felt like Rosa Parks in that bitch.
With all that being said, I am already ready to go home. I think I'm gonna give it another chance because I've only been here for 1 day. But if I've experienced all of this crap and rude people in 1 day, I really don't have much hope for the rest of this trip. I'm supposed to be here for a week, but I'm honestly thinking about changing my flight. This place is a complete shithole. A huge chunk of comments were from Black people saying that I deserved what I experienced because I decided to come to Italy. And since there are not a lot of Black people in Italy, then I should probably just stay in my lane and not go where I'm not wanted.
So her experience was horrible. I feel so bad for her.
But this is a whole other level.
I lived in Italy for 5 years and I had my whole life planned. It was the first time away from my parents. It was the first time away from my country. It was the first time on my own. I had so many plans, and that was just a bubble that was burst in the first few months that I was living in Italy. Because every time anyone found out that I was from Iran, they immediately changed how they were treating me, from the professors, the people, the young people, old people. Even renting a house was a headache. Like, I was at the bottom of anybody's list when I was renting. And when I wanted to rent a house, when I wanted to like get a job. For 3 years, I was looking for a job, and every time they were racist to me, but I couldn't put my finger on it because they didn't use a slur, but I could tell I could tell that they were treating me like shit because I was Iranian, and they were not giving me any money, any jobs, and I didn't have any money for a long time. But at the end, I got hired by an Italian, and he saved my life, and he saved me from ending up on the street, becoming homeless. So he was one of the good ones, and a very rare human being, and I'm forever thankful. But the racism I experienced in Italy, I have never experienced it anywhere else. And then when I came to America, the first week that I got my work authorization, I got a job, and I was so scared. And I went there, I thought everybody was gonna be racist to me and like ask me weird questions like Italians did, but nobody did that. And it was just such a big culture shock for me that nobody's being racist to me because I'm Iranian. Like, it was so weird to me to find out that, oh my gosh, there are places in the world that they're not like that. I remember I had this student from Nigeria. I used to teach a little bit of English on the side, and he spoke like brilliant English. His English was great. He was better than mine, and he was just so sad, and like he started to tear up about how the people treated him in Italy, and it was so sad. And it reminded me of one time I was shopping in the train station, one of the stores. I was just killing time and shopping, and this African family walked in, and they looked rich. They looked that they were going to spend a lot of money, but the cashiers like compared us. They didn't know I was from Iran, but my skin is lighter. Even though they wanted to pay before me, they wanted to take me first. And I was like, no, I don't want to pay. I want to look more. And they were like, no, it's your turn. I was like, they didn't want to take them. They didn't want to like ring them up or anything. They were treating them like shit, and they knew, they were noticed, but they were not saying anything. They were just laughing. And it was heartbreaking. And I'm not saying all of them are like this, but it's just a huge problem in Italy. It's a huge issue, and it's just heartbreaking. I remember I was working at an English institute, and the person that was working there said, we can't tell the students that you're from Iran. What are they gonna think? I am like verbatim her, quoting. What are we going to tell the students? Are we going to tell them you're Iranian? What are they going to say? How did you learn English? Like, what? So yeah, this was my experience from Italy.
I'm going to try to make this quick. So I'm sitting at a pizzeria in Naples. It's the first time I've ever been in Naples, and as I'm sitting there, some woman leans over to me and says, "Where are your features from?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Where are your features from?" And I'm like, "You mean like my background?" And she's like, "Yeah, what country are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm American. We don't know what country we come from. But I did DNA test, so I know that I come from Nigeria." And she goes, "Oh, dangerous." What? She's like, "Oh yeah, Nigerians are dangerous. They always look like they're up to something." So I ignore her, and she keeps on talking. Then she says, "Are you sure you're not mixed with anything else?" And I'm entertaining her, so I'm like, "Yeah, also Cameroon." And she goes, "Oh, that's where your lips are from." Then she goes and says, "I want a black baby."
This one is even worse. Where are your features from? Goodness, this is something. And then next, I want a black baby. Seriously, weird.
I'm still in Rome, in a hotel, waiting for my second flight. Yesterday I was detained and treated as a criminal. I was discriminated against my color and my nationality. They stopped me, claiming that I have a fake stamp in my passport. They registered me, processed me, take my fingerprints, take me a picture of my like a criminal. They refused to speak in English, so Greta couldn't understand. And they tried to separate us. If it weren't for Greta, I would be in a plane being deported to Mexico for these claims that I have no way to prove because they don't have any record. They deny to give their names and their positions, their charges. And Greta saved me. Greta saved me calling a very good lawyer here in Rome.
Did you see the video where that creator said he was shoved out of an elevator in Italy, but when they all found out he was American, they were like, "This is not Italia, this is not Italia." That is very much Italia. That is Italy with its whole chest. I am so anti-Italy that if I was given an all-expenses paid trip to the Amalfi Coast, Rome, wherever, I'm not going. Like I said in that video, thank you for the Renaissance, thank you for Nutella, Gucci, Prada, the other brands I can't afford. Let me tell you one thing. Give me all that, toss the rest of the country in the ocean. I spent 3 months in Italy in 2013, and then I went back in 2018 for a short while. And let me tell you, even after growing up in the southern United States, I have never experienced the overt disrespect and racism that I experienced in Italy. I'm talking assault. I'm talking people avoiding me in the street. I'm talking people acting like I was there to rob them because I'm asking for directions. Stares of disgust, all-out rudeness, just microaggressions worse than I have experienced in America. I wrote all about this in 2018, so you can go ahead and check out my story on the New York Times. And to this day, people still message me to say that they've experienced the same things and they're happy to find out that they weren't alone. I actually met a couple nice people there, and one of my closest friends I met while I was studying abroad. The rest of that country, though, no. And if you don't believe me, just Google race relations in Italy.
Oh yes, that is definitely Italia. Okay, so let me just share my experience. So me and my two best friends decided that we wanted to go to Italy to have this big girls trip. And so while we were there, we were like, okay, well, it's going to be one of their birthdays. So let's just celebrate her 30th birthday while we're there. But unfortunately, my experience was not their experience, and I'll explain why. So we have a diverse friend group. So one of them I've known since I was 5. The other one I met when I was 10 years old. And one of them's Asian and one's white. But we've been friends for 20 plus years. So to us, like we're all like family, like we're best friends, but more like family at this point. So we said, okay, let's, see all the things we can possibly see. Let's just make the most of this trip. We'll fly to Rome. We'll go to Tuscany. We can spend a day at the Amalfi Coast, and then we can hit Venice. And then after Venice, they said, okay, well, they wanted to go to Switzerland. But for me, I was like, this was already a lot in terms of just all the different places we're going to. I think I'll just finish up my trip in Milan, and then I'll go back to the United States. So in terms of the racial situations that I experienced while I was there. So the first thing was just being in the train station. So there was this guy that was just staring at me, and he was sitting on one of those like luggage carts that, if you're at the airport and, they throw your luggage onto the carts and then they drive it to baggage claim. He was on one of those, but for the train station. And so he was sitting, on the cart, and I guess, he had stopped it and he was just staring. But I didn't notice he was staring. My friends told me, like, I think he's staring at you. But he was. It wasn't like a question. He was doing one of those blank stares that apparently is just completely normal in Europe for people to just have this blank stare. Now I'm like, okay, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm the queen of ignoring people. Like, a lot of people stare. So it is what it is. Like, I'll just ignore you. But after a few minutes, we look up and he's still staring. I'm like, all right. So one of them stands in front of me. He's like, all right, we just going to keep ignoring, like act like he's not staring. But he's giving me one of these creepy looks at the same time. Like, it wasn't a blank stare this time. This time the stare was kind of like a little creepy, So when I look up a third time and he's still giving me this creepy stare, I kind of give him like one of these like, and just to kind of let him know, like, I'm not the one, like, I don't know what it is that you're looking at, but like, no, I'm not having it. So I guess he didn't like that. So he decides to drive his cart straight directly towards us. And instead of, kind of like, I guess, going the route that we thought he was going to take, he kept coming straight. And then he swerves at the last minute as if he was trying to get us to like jump back, which we did. We were like, what the hell? So yeah, so I guess he didn't like that reaction that I gave him. But this aggression all of a sudden, this white man, I guess, got mad because I kind of gave him, like that, like, type of look. Yeah, he didn't like that. So then the second thing that happened, so this was in Venice. So, we decided to go after, sightseeing. We decided we wanted to go shopping and check out some of the European brands and the small boutiques. So we're walking past, one store, and I had saw some stuff in the window. So I'm like, okay, let's go check this one out. So when we get in there, the lady, she's really nice, strong Italian accent, but she knows English. So she's helping us out and, asking us if we need help with anything or anything like that. So it was a good experience. But it took a turn when we got to the register. She's talking to us, checking us out. But I guess there was a lady behind me and I didn't know because all three of us are facing the lady at the register and we're talking to her. But I guess this lady had came up and she's like I don't know if she like, IT type of person or maintenance or whatever, but she was trying to get into the cabinets that I guess were, at the booth where the register was. But I guess the door that she needed to open was right behind me. So instead of saying, excuse me, or if she didn't know English, like getting the lady's attention that works there to say, like, I'm trying to get into this, like, can you get them to move out of the way or something, she decides to bump me out of the way. Now, this wasn't just like a slight nudge of like, oh, because I would have said, oh, I'm sorry, like, let me get out of your way. I didn't know that she was like behind me. But this was like a hard bump to where I kind of stumbled a little bit, and I had to try and look like, who just pushed me? And so when I turn around, she's squatting down with like the cabinet door open, like trying to get to some wires. And she's like, oh, well, I'm trying to get to this. I'm trying to get to this. I'm like, okay, but you could have said, excuse me. Like, why did you push me out of the way? So I guess because she noticed that I was American. Then she changed up a little. She's like, well, I didn't know. But I'm like, you knew what you was doing, because now you see my reaction. So now you're trying to switch it up. And so when I tell people this story, they're like, oh, you better than me, because I would have did this and did that. But in the heat of the moment when I was mad, I had to remember that I'm in a whole different country. So I don't want to do anything that could get me locked up in a whole different country. So I was like, all right, let me just, we finished checking out, and then I just left. But so what I will say is this: Italy's like America in that not everywhere is racist, but there is racism in Italy, just like there is racism in America. So as a Black woman, I would just say, just be careful where you're going. Make sure you look up the different, race relations that are in these countries, because I will say that Italy was also beautiful. Like, we did have experiences where we would go in the small, Italian restaurants, and we even had I don't know if he was the owner or the chef, but he saw like our table. People were already staring at us there too. But he saw our table, and he probably saw a white girl, Asian girl, and a Black girl, and he said, he brought us free wine glasses. Like, he just brought us a glass of wine, and and he like thanked us for coming. So moral of the story is that not everywhere is racist, but there is racial tensions out there. So I would just say, just be careful, be safe. I know that, there are Black girls that travel alone, but just, make sure that you really do your research and really go to the safest places possible.
There's a lot that we can speak about. You can go on and on and on, but listening to all these clips, you can see how related it is. And people trying to compare racism in Italy and, let me say in Europe, but especially in Italy, you'll realize that it's really pro. It's ninth level, as this guy put it, and I don't know why. If you're an Italian and you have this thought of racism, what influences you to have such thought? When I see Black people in Africa and the way they are treated, I've never seen a Black person being discriminated against in Africa. On the contrary, they're treated as royalty. There's this video of a guy who was in Africa and he was treated as a royalty. I think I should bring you this video to see the contrast. How should you be treating people like trash while they treat you as royalties in their countries? Such a discrimination should end. We are making a world a better society to live in. With this culture of racism, we don't know. The world turns around, and we never know how will the coin spin one day, and you realize that Europe have to bend to Africa. We are heading there. And if this is the kind of mentality you're showing people when they come to your lands, I'm sorry to say that you might also be a victim of such. But I know Africans can never be that. The Black people and all these people they're discriminating against, they can't act like that. So you have to stop. It's not a good man.
That
it's not good.
It's not Italia. Everybody started talking about, that's not Italia.